Today's video actually took basically like 3 different forms, as I was going to talk about this story from different angles, but every angle and road I went down, it led to one common element. That is that WB Games is kind of falling apart right now. WB Games, they kind of screwed themselves majorly. They doubled down on a lot of bad decisions, and now it's been announced actually a day or two ago that WB Interactive Entertainment president David Haddad is exiting his role. He's leaving his role after 12 years of leading the WB Games division. Now, that in and of itself is not the biggest piece of news, although I do think it's kind of like the cherry on top of a crap sundae, which goes to show you how poorly WB Games has been doing outside of a few small key things. One, I guess, would be with WB itself, obviously licensing out / letting out the Arkham property to be made by Camouflage, who made Arkham Shadow, which was a very good game, but that's not WB Games itself. Camouflage is its own entity. And then I guess another thing would be that they actually had a lot of success with Hogwarts Legacy. Those two things, and one of them wasn't even them, are pretty much the only positives they have on their track record in the last several years. So we're going to take a look at this today because WB Games itself is falling apart. You can also see this in the fact that they're finally bringing their characters back to other games like Fortnite, which they avoided doing for actually over a year now. So if you enjoy this video, you want to leave a like, subscribe, let me know what you think in the comments down below. I do have a question of the day for you, which is genuinely, what do you want from WB Games going forward? Do you want WB Games to continue making games? Do you want them to go the route that a lot of properties have gone in the past and just license their games out to other developers that are talented and have a passion for it? Let me know what you're thinking in the comments down below. Now, here is one of the biggest signs, by the way, that WB did bad. They have admitted several times that they screwed up when it came to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. This is one that I could hammer on over and over and over, but I already have. I have ad nauseum covered that game and talked about it on this channel. So if you're not familiar with my channel, I do variety here. I talk about things from Metal Gear Solid to movies I like, to Batman Arkham, to Assassin's Creed, to who knows what else. Hey, sometimes I even talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. So there's playlists here about pretty much everything. You want to look up my thoughts on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, it is on my channel. That said, they admitted that it failed. They admitted that it flopped. It did poorly. It didn't meet sales expectations. It was called a failure in an earnings call, pretty much word for word, by David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery. It was just a nightmare for them. For some reason, they had this idea that it was going to do great financially, and it completely flopped. Now, that said, in the same kind of stretch of time, they also had a massively, I would almost say, unproportional success of Hogwarts Legacy. Now, I'm not saying it didn't deserve success. I know there's a lot of people who, like, the game comes up and they're like, screw everybody who bought it. You're a bunch of transphobes and bigots. How dare you support this thing because J.K. Rowling worked on the original story? What the hell? I don't really see it that way. I see it as just a video game that hundreds of people worked on who were not J.K. Rowling. So for me, when someone bought it and enjoyed it, that's great. Good for them. For me personally, it's a game I have not played, but I've seen gameplay of it, and I'd like to play it. It looks like a good game. Genuinely, it does. People had a lot of fun with Hogwarts Legacy. But what was Hogwarts Legacy? It was the bread and butter of WB, what they are actually good at in a lot of cases, which was like a single-player game with a narrative, a good world, fun story, interesting environments, interesting characters, and it was something that was, for the most part, respectful to its source material. I think that's what a lot of people want out of WB Games. But WB Games lately has been, in the last few years, delivering stinkers when it comes to what they put out. I am not personally opposed to games as a service existing. I know a lot of you are, and that's fine. Full transparency, I don't make very much money off YouTube. In fact, when you guys use my Fortnite code, which I'm going to put right here, DJAY123, that actually helps my channel out a ton. I enjoy some live service games. I play Fortnite. You know, they're finally putting DC characters back in Fortnite. Deathstroke was in the store the other day. I mentioned that on my community tab, and I was like, hey, use my code if you're interested. I love it. But that right there goes to show you how desperate WB has gotten. I'm not saying don't buy it. Hey, if you want to buy Deathstroke, by all means, use the code Buy Deathstroke. Helps me out a ton. But I think it's funny that for a long time, it was very, very rare for WB's DC Comics characters to appear in any capacity in Fortnite, or in really any game that they didn't own. Because they were pushing Suicide Squad as a live service game, they were pushing Multiverses as like a free live service game, and they were trying to be a Smash Bros. Competitor or a Smash Bros. Killer. It didn't really work out. I mean, like, a lot of the player base of these games has really dropped off. Now, with Multiverses, is it as big of a deal? No, because it was always just this free-to-play game where there wasn't a 200 million or 300 million or whatever the hell they put into Suicide Squad. There were just ridiculous estimations of how much money went into that with the budget and the messy development at Rocksteady. They didn't put that kind of money into it as far as we are aware. So Multiverses not meeting some kind of expectations, I'm sure sucks for WB, but it's not as big of a deal. But there were reports at the time that Multiverses being their big live service free-to-play game, along with Suicide Squad, dealing with the Justice League, Harley Quinn, the Suicide Squad itself, etc., those were some of the reasons listed behind the scenes by people of a potential reason why Warner didn't want their characters appearing in something else. That they somehow had put themselves on this pedestal where they saw a game like Fortnite from Epic Games, flaws and all. It's got flaws. It's got a lot of stuff that's milked. They're even selling shoes now, for heaven's sake, on their store. But that game is super successful. And somehow WB put themselves on this pedestal in their head that they thought they were a competitor with that game. With a game like Multiverses, it's not even the same genre. It's not the same genre at all. What is similar? That it's free? Okay. I guess that it has like a pass progression system, like a battle pass. Okay. Like that's all it's got in common. Like, to me, this would be like the next Gran Turismo, thinking it was somehow a competitor of Call of Duty. And you're like, why would a racing game, Gran Turismo, why would they say, hey, because we also charge $70 for our game, we're a competitor of them? They're not even the same audience. They're just totally different. So it's so weird to me that WB Games has had kind of this delusional streak for a while where they just have not known what to do. And David Haddad leaving as the president, I think, is kind of the cherry on top of these different, phone calls, like these earnings calls saying, hey, we're screwing up. Hey, we did a bad job with Suicide Squad. Hey, what's going on? Oopsie poopsie, our game division is doing bad. Even listing Hogwarts Legacy as like their one success. Him leaving and the very gracefully worded PR statement around it, which to me screams, we told him to leave. But to them it says, David has thoughtfully and purposely chosen a time when our release schedule is lighter, which will help minimize disruption to our ongoing projects and strategic plans, blah, 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 blah. That statement right there screams to me, hey, we told this guy to get the hell out of here because we're doing terrible. But we're going to gracefully give him a golden parachute because that's what the rich do for the rich. We give him, a success story here, and he gets to leave and say he's proud of the company and he'll be supporters of them or whatever. He gets the hell out. We get someone else in here. We get some new blood in here, and we try and do something like what Meta did with Arkham Shadow, where, they made a good game and people were happy. Or like we did, internally with Hogwarts Legacy. We actually made a good game. People liked it. Like they seem to be actually realizing that this was a mistake. Now, what's weird to me is that before they kind of doubled down on still wanting to do games as a service. So I don't understand really what they're learning from that. But I will say this, they even did have an entire statement for an internal note in terms of the global games team, which to me was still kind of frustrating. Basically saying from transitioning a physical software company into a digital-first gaming operation to organically building a successful free-to-play mobile business to developing and publishing multiple billion-dollar games and franchises they talked about including Hogwarts Legacy, Game of Thrones Conquest, and Golf Clash, to delighting more Mortal Kombat fans than any time in the franchise's 30-plus year history. That's a little debatable. The journey has been nothing short of extraordinary, and so basically they just kind of gave him a good old tug, gave him a golden parachute and said, all right, now get out of here. But I do think it's kind of disturbing that they don't really admit any fault in this. Now, that said, I also don't expect them to on an internal memo. Unless they were shutting down, they probably wouldn't say like, hey, we screwed up. And even then, they might not admit it, because what company does? It's very rare. Now, what is the solution to this? You might look at my channel's history. You might look at the fact that a lot of people found me through Batman Arkham, and you might think that my answer would be just make more Batman Arkham games. It's actually not. I'm not saying you can't do that. Like, there's probably plenty of stories in that universe to talk about. Just made a game or a video talking about the games just like a couple days ago, and about potential settings that someone talked about, and kind of ranking and rating some of those and what I thought about them. It's not that I think you can't do that, but I think that what you need to have is kind of a repertoire of characters. Like, when your biggest things are mobile games, which the market for is fleeting. It's basically supported by whales, and when those whales drop off, your game dies completely. If that's kind of the biggest thing you have going on, you need more going on. You know, it used to be that, like, we would get Lego games based off of these characters. We would get the Arkham games based off these characters. We would actually get the occasional movie game based off these characters, even though a lot of those were bad, they were still made. We would get Mortal Kombat. You know, like, there was all these different things. Injustice. But for many years, it's like, where's the DC fighting games? Like Injustice 3 or a reboot in a new timeline. Where's that? Nowhere to be found. Oh, okay. Well, where's Mortal Kombat? Well, a lot of it transitioned to games as a service stuff ever since MK11. It's been going more and more online. Some people like that, but a lot of people don't, especially hardcore OG fans. So that's kind of something where it's like they're trying to make their money back there. You know, you're like, where are the Arkham games? Well, they're dead. And then, of course, as well, you know, Kevin Conroy, God rest his soul. And, you know, I truly believe wonderful, beautiful human being like that, up there in heaven right now, looking down, smiling at us. When you look at him, it's like he was so willing to make more Arkham. You know, he was so willing to do more Batman stories. And this is the same studio that squandered his talent for a while, and then put him in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and unfortunately, he's no longer with us. So now you also have a player base where even with like those Arkham games that were surefire successes, there's a lot of people who are like, don't bring him back. You blew it. Kevin is gone. And that was our Batman. And we don't want this without our Batman. And it's like, for me, I understand that position too. You know, it's like, I get that. So even that, it's not a surefire success because of what you did. You had misfires like Suicide Squad. You had misfires like Gotham Knights, where it just was kind of its standalone own thing for whatever reason that connected to nothing. And a lot of people didn't care about the history of the universe, jumping right in. Didn't care about the game, found it mid, found the story and gameplay just okay. You've got all these mistakes, and then you have the company coming crawling back to things like Fortnite, obviously putting their characters in that again, like Deathstroke, some of the Batman characters, things like that. I believe that they did, was it like the Suicide Squad? Is it Suicide Squad Isekai, or the Japanese kind of anime-ish movie that they did recently? I didn't watch it, but I know they made some skins for that. It's like, so they're kind of crawling back to other games that they told to, you know, piss off for a while. They know they screwed up. They know they screwed up. I mean, even the ending of the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game just being like a motion comic cutscene presented like a PowerPoint. It's like they stopped putting money into that game completely. They did not know what to do. They know they messed up. They know that they're falling apart. I just don't really know if they understand why. And that's what concerns me. Like, I don't think they understand that they screwed, like, why they screwed up with Suicide Squad. I think they just know it was a failure. But every time there's like a failure, they always blame the consumer. You know, it's always, well, the consumer didn't buy it. The consumer didn't like it. They weren't grateful. The consumer does not have to be grateful for everything you put in front of them. There is a multitude of entertainment out there for people who can afford entertainment. But there's so many options out there. There are games up the wazoo. Nobody needs to be grateful for Suicide Squad, or for Multiverses, or for whatever. Now, when a game is actually good, and people refuse to play it, because that has happened, do I personally think they're missing out? Yeah, I do. But they still don't have to play it, right? Like, you as the company should want to make good art, obviously, because that should be the point, really, but also make art and pieces of media that people want to engage with, that they find entertaining, interesting, compelling, they connect with. You're not doing that. You haven't been doing that for many years. Now, Arkham itself is not the only way to save it, but like, it's one thing that I think should probably still exist in some capacity. I know a lot of people's feelings on Kevin Conroy. I understand them. I respect them. I don't want to get into a whole debate on that. Maybe a different video. That could be interesting. But for me, it's like that was a proven success in the past, and you blew it. You just kind of left it in the dust. You know, Injustice was a proven success, even with the complaints I have about it. You kind of left it in the dust. And then you embraced these games that nobody wanted. And then you were upset and surprised Pikachu face when people didn't want them. I guess I just don't understand how they don't get it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you're interested in supporting this channel, leaving a like, subscribing, like I said, the Fortnite code, if you lock that in before you buy something on that store, helps me out a ton. For some reason, you have to reset it every week or two. I don't know why the game's set up like that. It just is. DJAY123 though. Really helpful to me. We also have our own store, CosmoBunny.shop, where we sell coasters, keychains, trays, and more from recycled paper, from manga, magazines, comic books, pamphlets, all kinds of damaged books, damaged goods. And you might say, well, why would I want to buy something damaged? Well, what we do is we don't sell damaged stuff. We take things from these damaged books that are unable to be sold by local businesses or even businesses online, get them dirt cheap or free from them, then we turn them into something like a resin coaster, resin keychain, transform them into a new medium and into new art, and then recycle the rest of that paper and keep it out of landfills. So that's something we work very hard on. DJAY123 on that store also gets you 10% off your first purchase. Finally, we do have other channels. I've been working very hard with my wife Jill over on our Let's Play channel. That's in the description down below. Also as well on our anime focused channel, Magical Jill. And finally on my role-playing game channel, JayRPG. All of that will be down in the description. I hope you have a fantastic day. And as always, everyone, stay shui.